Well, it has been the kind of week that'll give you whiplash. President Donald Trump has made yet another tariff reversal, pressing pause on those sweeping 25% tariffs for Canadian products compliant under the Canada-US-Mexico Free Trade Agreement. Industry Minister François-Philippe joins me now to discuss. Minister, thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate it.
It's good to be with you again, Caryn. It's one of those weeks, I would say, maybe one of those days. We'll see later on in the day,
Yeah,
you know.
maybe one of those months. Minister, the White House has said that 62% of Canadian imports are not compliant with CUSMA. What's your understanding of how they reach that number and how many imports from Canada are still likely to face tariffs?
Well, that's a very good question. We still have to see the details. You know, one thing we've learned, Caryn, over time is really to take it step by step, to listen to the comments made by the president, but to really look at the executive order and the fine prints. You know, we've been there before. There's a lot of question out there. And I would say, Caryn, there's like policy fatigue in a way. You know, the markets have spoken this week. The unions have spoken. Workers, industry has spoken in the United States. I think people are saying that this, uncertainty cannot become the new certainty. You can drive supply chain like in our auto sector in Ontario. You can do that also in the aerospace in Quebec and the energy sector. CEOs are calling me from all over the United States and we need predictability, we need certainty. You just can't manage an economy when things are changing by the day and sometimes multiple times during a day. So our mission is really to not just have a suspension, as you mentioned, but really to remove these tariffs and to get back to some form of normalcy so that we can sit at the table, deal with the issues, address the concerns on both sides. But one thing they've learned is, and I think they understood, is that we're going to stand firm, we're going to stand up for our workers and our industry. And I think that message is being understood now by also the American people.
I want to pick up on your point about the auto sector because Trump has repeatedly and explicitly expressed that his desire is to relocate the entire auto sector inside the United States. In the conversations that you are having with auto manufacturers, have you received any assurances that they will not relocate in the long term, that they are committed to staying in Canada?
Well, you know, they have commitments to Canada, and the Canadians, we've been there for them for decades. You know, since the Auto Pact, we have been seeing investments in Canada. There's a good reasons. We have the best worker. We have the energy. We have also the critical minerals that are needed to make the cars of today and tomorrow. And I've been very clear with them. I spoke to the representative of the CEOs in Washington to make sure they understood that, we're going to be fighting to make sure that we keep all the mandates we have in Canada. We have seen record level of investment in the auto sector. Many of these companies have made commitments to Canada. And trust me, we're going to all these contracts. We're going to make sure we enforce all the terms of these contracts. And we're going to be fighting with our workers and obviously with the government of Ontario. We've been in touch with Unifor yesterday. It's all hands on deck. But so far, I would say I've heard nobody suggesting that now. But we're going to be on the watch for that and making sure they understand that we're going to stand up. And there's a good reasons why they're in Canada, because we have been making cars here. We have the technology, we have the know-how, and we have the workers. So I would say from now on, it's really watching what they're doing, making sure we make the case for Canada and working with the unions in the industry.
I've got less than a minute left, but I wanted to ask you because on Sunday, your party will have a new leader and the transition to a new prime minister will begin. What is your sense of how that may affect conversations with your American counterparts going forward and the government's ability to reach a point where there are no tariffs applied?
Well, you know, I've been supporting Mark Carney. We're going to be a good team. We already have a plan. We're going to be making sure that we're engaging with the White House so that they understand our position. They already know we're going to be standing up for Canada. We're going to stand up for our workers and our industry. And we want a removal of the tariff. And like I said, going back to a certain level of normalcy in our relationship. I always make the point, I said, I hope you're happy to see me when I go in Washington, because I said, we're your biggest customer. We buy more from the United States than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. So that's a good starting point. And we're going to make sure that we continue the work we've been doing and have an open channel with the White House. And I think, I am confident, we need to have we need to go in Washington confident, elbows up, heads up, and making sure we fight for Canada like we've done. They understand firmness. And I think now the American people and governors and business leaders understand that the best way forward is to work with Canada, not against Canada, because at the end of the day, we want a more competitive North America, and Canada is an integral part of that.
Okay, I have to leave it there because I'm out of time. Minister François-Philippe Champagne, appreciate you making time this morning.